Welcome to TimSold Talks. Join us as we dive into all things real estate, talk about business, food, cars, and much more with industry experts. Dream it, believe it, achieve it. Welcome back to another episode of TimSold Talks. I'm very honored to have Keith Chang here, president of SenovvA Canada, join us. He's a very special guest because he's been a dear friend of mine for the past few years, and actually we developed a good friendship, a good collaboration, partnership as well. We serve on the board of trade, Markham board of trade here as board of directors together, and we've got a few maybe collaboration projects planned in the future.
Yes.
But before we begin, keeping in tradition with our theme of our talk is to surprise our guests with some food and drinks. And today we are proudly not sponsored, but advertising for Hatendo. They make cream puffs bakery with different flavors, and they've had a very successful expansion story. They went from one store to now they're in all the major malls in Ontario. And please grab one to try. There's many different flavors I've heard, like a chocolate.
Oh, I got
matcha.
a yuzu one.
A yuzu milk tea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got the milk tea one. So let's give that one a try.
Very nice.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bud. Cheers. Really good. It'd be hard to talk after this. For our friends and audience that are listening who don't know SenovvA, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do and what the whole company is about?
Well, at SenovvA, we really focus on creative and live events. Mm-hmm. That's been our specialty.
Okay.
On the creative side, it's really building out for corporations the story.
Yep.
And really telling it authentically.
Okay.
And it's the same way we approach our live events, is how we approach with companies and looking at the messaging that they're trying to convey and building an event that will kind of speak to their language and what they're trying to convey.
Excellent. And for our audience that don't know what kind of live events we're talking about, could you share some of that experience with us?
It ranges.
Yeah.
So we have offices in Toronto, LA, San Francisco, and New York.
Yep.
Really what we specialize in here is a lot of the corporate events, filming commercials from companies from like Deloitte to companies like Fleischmann's, where we're filming their commercials, their social commercials, to LA, where recently all the screens and technology for the Oscars, the Billboard Music Awards, and that's kind of where our range
mainstream stuff,
pulls,
right?
Yeah, from mainstream all the way to corporations is what we take care of. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, and they actually helped us do our own advertisement a few years ago too.
Yes,
so
that was fun. That was fun. Getting to sit with you and kind of learn who you were was really interesting. And for us, that's the core of where we are, is telling story. And that was even a lot of fun because it was finding about who you were and the core of what you were doing and what impassions you. So we do that across the board with any company that we engage with, is really finding out that story and that heart of the company.
The company, right? Yeah. Finding out their core and telling it in a passionate way and showcasing them, the true.
Well, I think that's the thing of it is every company is built from something, right? And sure, as they become bigger corporations, there's a certain element to it, but there's a heart to it somewhere, right? Even for you, TimSold came from somewhere, right? There's a breed of passion that came from somewhere. And if you can harness that and tell that, that becomes so powerful for people to visualize, because they technically don't buy houses from the company. They buy from you,
the person, right?
The person.
Yeah. What makes you great and telling it, shouting from the mountaintops is the way to promote, to get people to get to draw them in, understand. And I think storytelling's been a key for our ancestors as well, right? Like as a way of communication, warnings or information or messages to each other.
100%.
So, yeah.
I think that's at the core of everything is that. I know it's a common word used nowadays. You hear storytelling. But at the core of it, every story has a beginning, middle, end, and it's how you tell it. And it's how you express it and those feelings and those emotions. And taking people on that journey, that's the heart of it. Because people think sometimes, oh, here's my phone, sell my phone. And it's got 20 gigs on it. But people don't care at the end of the day. They want to know the feeling behind it and why you created it, right?
Yeah. I think that's why you do such an amazing job with all the brands that you work with.
I look at it as we've been fortunate. Like the team is incredible, and the way they do things and our approach. And I think that's the thing is looking at every client as not a cookie cutter. Every client has a certain need and where it comes from. And I think to find that passion within them or within that storyline and to tell it is really our job as, call it filmmakers or even in events, right? You got thousands of people in the crowd or even down to 50 people in a crowd. How do you inspire somebody? How do you engage in them so they sit there and go, oh, I can do that, or oh, I can add to my sales, right? And it's that inspirational point that you really want to bring across to people, and that's where we try to find that core of that element.
Okay, amazing. And could you mind sharing, like, how did you get into this, and how did you start, and how many years have you been doing this now?
Wow, we got an hour for this podcast? No, I've always loved art. I was always drawing, always painting, but as you know, coming from traditional Asian parents, back then especially, now I'm aging myself, was you're an artist, you're going to starve, right? And it wasn't really accepted in the household. And as hard of a story I can get it is as personal as and being kind of open to it was my OAC year. My dad gave me an option.
Okay.
He said, go anywhere to school in the world. I will pay for everything as long as it's not art. And he said, if it's art, get out.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Tough love.
And I left home.
Okay.
And I went to Sheridan College, studied graphic design. And it was really that element of when I got into first year, I met a lot of people that came from like first year university, second year university. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, they said, well, this is what I always want to do. I said, so why'd you go to university? Because my parents told me to, right? And my element was, how is it best said? The wood grain always goes one way. I always went the opposite way of the grain. So I always made it the most difficult aspect that I had to. And not getting the support and not the belief was hard. But I think that's what drove me. And that's what got me into it. And when I landed in graphic design and half my friends were in the animation department and seeing what they were doing and like from painting backgrounds to seeing cell after cell of their animations being put together to seeing the design being put together, it fueled it. It triggered it. And I was fortunate enough that after graduation, I was able to get a job in a design firm.
Oh, wow.
And I was lucky enough to have a mentor, a gentleman, Lumiere, who was amazing. And he mentored me. Like, we would sit for hours and speak about design. And he was full artistic dude. So everything he would just teach me, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a sponge. Absorb. And they even gave me the opportunity by my third year in that business to say, hey, I would love to help open up a media division to the company. And they gave me that opportunity.
Wow. You must have been quite young at that point.
Yeah, I was only 23 at the time.
Oh, geez, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So aging myself now horribly. But it was that opportunity, and they gave me that bandwidth to go learn. And we started doing some 3D animation, started doing filming on like tape back then. So the evolution has been incredible. Yeah.
This is like early 2000s or was
early 2000s.
Early 2000s, right? Yeah.
So we were developing stuff, and then by my fifth year in the company, I thought, oh, maybe it's time to walk out on my own. And at that time, then my father kind of came around and gave me some real support. And his offer was, come to my office, I'll give you a corner. I'll give you rent free for a year. Go make it happen. And I remember back then the internet wasn't what it was, so I had these big Pearlie's books, right? I started at A, and I remember making 50 calls the first day, and I got hung up on 50 times. And I went home and I went, what am I doing? Right? And then just kept going at it and finally landed my first meeting. And then got my first job. And it just started building from there. And then recognizing that certain things were changing in the industry. So we were doing a lot of print design, websites, but we were doing a little bit in film, but it was when YouTube first launched. And I turned to my creative director at the time, who still is my creative director now. That I said, the world's going to change. So we shifted and we turned it upside down. I remember his face when I said, hey, we're going to drop print. We're going to drop web. Because that's revenue, right?
Yeah,
and he's like, what are you going to do? And I said, hey, let's do it this way. We're going to reverse the pyramid. We're going to become great at video. And this is how we're going to go at it. And we did.
Wow.
And we started filming on tape. And then I was like, I didn't like the video look. And started doing research and found that independent filmmakers were buying this unit. It was $20,000 at the time. But it attached to the front of your video camera. And you could add a camera lens. And it made it look like film. So at the time, we pitched it as bringing Hollywood to corporate. And that was kind of our terminology back then. And we remember we did, one of the videos was on a handrail company. Escalator handrails. And I remember
stuff.
It was crazy. It was totally exciting. But we filmed in their whole processing plant and what they did. And I remember showing the president the video in his boardroom. And at the end of it, it closed out and he turned to me and goes, that looked like a movie. I was like, yes, that's it. That's the one. That's the one. That's what we're going for. But from there, we started thinking about, hey, it's a flashy video. It just lives for a few seconds. There's no purpose other than it's very flashy and it looks really good. So that's when we started, Stan, my creative director, is incredible. And we started looking at why. And it was actually, we watched an element on Simon Sinek. The why, how, what.
Why, how?
And then we went, oh.
That's what it is.
Start looking for why we're doing what we're doing. And that inspired us a lot. Like his speech on why just flipped everything that we were doing. And we said, now let's go with intention. Let's have intent for everything that we do. And that's when we start digging into story and trying to understand story. That there is a beginning, middle, end. It's more than
just flash.
Okay, boom, it's done. There's story, right? Everything has a story to it. And how do you tell that story arc? And that's when we really started digging in and getting excited about, oh, this is what we can offer now. So that's kind of that transition, but then technology also changed as well. So there was huge evolutions in everything that we were doing. So it was unbelievable.
But you were like pioneers of that, and you're at least still leading the front.
It's. I think the main thing is always being inspired by what's around us, and never settling. I think was always the factor for us. Was change is inevitable. It's gonna happen. But how to take that technology and use it. Like even for us, I think it was when the first Canon DSLR came out. It was the 5D Mark II. And I remember going to Vistech and the guy's like, yeah, you can film video on it. And I remember standing there, we're like, let's go buy one. Not knowing the limitations of it, that it only had 11 minutes of filming, that it didn't have good sound quality. And we're like, oh no. But you could put a camera lens on front and now you got this beautiful depth of field. Now you could tell story in a more emotional way, emotional connection. Because that's what we truly found is gear. It's how do you create an emotional connection with the other person sitting across from it, right? That's viewing your element or that's listening to you. How do you create that connection? And we always feel that it's the heart that leads the mind. Right? Because I can give you the specs on your Porsche all day long. You can go, great, it has lots of horsepower. But when you look at it, you go, oh, I want that one in red. Right? So it's here, actually, that affects you. So that's why we feel that in everything that we tell, whether it be from a live event to a film that we produce, how do we create that emotion? Right? Whether it be joy, happiness, sadness, any of the emotions that we all evoke as human beings. How do we evoke that emotion?
Right? I see. Wow. And speaking of the live events, so you've covered obviously some of the major ones around the world, the major ones being, you said, the Oscars and the Grammys. A quick question. Were you there when that famous slap happened?
No, I was not, but the president of the U.S. division, he was there, Frank.
He was there?
And so there were some...
Because you were covering it live, right? So were you guys kind of...
Well, so we're all the live technology and all the screens. So they were all backstage when it happened. So definitely an experience. I was here in Toronto. But definitely from down there, the different things that they experience in Hollywood and some of the live events there are pretty intense. Very secretive at certain points because we're not allowed to post certain elements.
Okay.
So even our behind the scenes stuff cannot actually come out till after it ends. Right. So a lot of social media stuff that I push out, it's already pre-edited. Because they're able to film they get special passes, they're allowed to film
behind the
but
scenes.
Then we can only put it out after the show is ended.
It must have a lot of non-disclosures and
yes, it's a huge thing.
Wow.
Right? But even up here with some of the corporate events, right?
Same thing, right?
It's the same thing. Like we do a lot of work for medical clients, so there's security that's on all the floors of the on certain floors of the hotel where we're at, right? Because they're talking about sensitive information. So for us, it's a lot of the NDAs and things that you can't discuss, or the pieces that we're creating for the event you can't showcase. Well, that's why even on our site or on our social media, you'll never really see the medical stuff at all, right? Because it plays internally.
Sensitivity,
Exactly, because of sensitivity to information.
Wow. Okay, cool. No, but that's fascinating to hear because that's I think a lot of people understand that the field as well. But could you speak about how you jumped from doing some films in there into now you guys are a multinational and covering all these global events? Like, how do you guys get from there?
I was very fortunate. So Dave Craveford, my business partner, he started SenovvA Canada. But I had known him now almost 20 years. So he had brought me on board in his prior company doing a lot of the content and visualization for the live events.
Okay.
So when he started SenovvA Canada, he came to me and said, hey, why don't we merge? And, we over years, we kept talking about it and finally made the decision and come together. But also talking with the guys in LA because there's a president and CEO that created SenovvA, right? So Frank and Kevin are one of the key people that are in SenovvA US that created the SenovvA brand. And I felt it was a great brand to be associated with. So it was at that point, even friends had asked me at that point, wow, it's your name. You've had it for so many years. What about legacy? And I said, nah, that doesn't matter to me, right? It's about opportunity to do interesting things. So for me, it was never about, hanging on to something. It was about, hey, looking for great opportunities, evolution, evolving, right? So that's the way I've always felt about the business and where technology goes and how we move. So Dave and I came together, and now I'm the business partner here with Dave in SenovvA Canada, and we work along with the U.S. as well. So we try to combine, we try to work together. If there's certain things that cross-border, we cross-border each other. I was down at Steven Tyler's Grammy party filming that production a few years ago. But then he supports a fund called Janie's Fund, which is named after one of his songs. Janie's Got a Gun, right? With Aerosmith. So going down there, experiencing the event, but also meeting the marketing manager that heads up Janie's Fund, and then going there and producing work for them. So we were in Vegas, we were in Philadelphia filming work that for an organization he supports, right? So those are the kind of opportunities that you kind of open doors to. So that's,
it starts snowballing, and then it starts, business opportunities to another one, to another one. So yeah, it's a fascinating journey that you're building here. Talking about the future, then you talk about adaptation to tech, and right now the latest craze is artificial intelligence.
Yes.
How does that play into your field?
So it's a place of contention now. There's some great things on one hand, and on one hand you go, oh, how far does this go? And we can see it even for us as an evolution that it can help support some of the things we're doing, whether it be from initial storyboarding, conceptualization that you can pull from AI and build these storyboards out a little bit quicker and more, if you're able to put the right calls in for it and really build it out, that's where it will create efficiencies for us, right? And give better ideas to the client about this is what it may look like, right? Even though it's not exact, but to take the time to sketch out boards and do those things, it's quite extensive. Whereas now you can pull a little quicker, fast track it a little bit more. But then we can see the different areas, especially like with ChatGPT and things like that, is hence why you got the big writers' strike in Hollywood. And even for our writers that we have, it's a level of contention because now you're drawing from the web, pulling. Is it truly creative?
Yeah.
Right? Or, there's the writer's mind, right? And there's always the big question of your IP, right?
Yeah.
Because now you can say, I want a film to look like this style, this director's style, right? But make a movie out of Batman, out of this one. And then all of a sudden it's gathering it for you or creating it, but it's pulling from things that it's already existing and then meshing them.
Yeah.
So is that truly? So it's an area that we have to pay attention to, and it's actually. Our team just had a big meeting, and one of the conversations was AI.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with it? So our thing is keep up with it because it's not going to go away.
Yeah, for sure.
It's here.
Yeah.
And it's going to stay. How do you utilize it as a great tool to support your creativity and what you're doing? Not letting it be the creator of your creativity, right? You still have to come up with the thought, the concept, but build it out, right? So again, does it get to a point where it's thinking for you?
It's telling you what to do afterwards?
Exactly. And the robots are walking around, So, but it still works back for me is human authenticity. I think whatever cameras we have or technology that advances, a computer still isn't going to be able to tell your human story. Right? Who you are, who your essence is. There's a computer, to me, my opinion, and it could be debated, doesn't have that soul.
The soul, yeah.
It's that soul. It's that heart. It's empathy. And I think, even after COVID, I don't know if you've seen it around, I think a lot of people have lost empathy.
Yeah.
Right?
Jaded or
very
desensitized by,
And it's a killer. Because we as humans crave connection, crave that empathy. And that needs to come back some way. And I feel AI in some way will take away from that heart, right? You can see it in some of our kids that sit there and play video games and they're yelling at the screen and they're yelling at people, but they have no one to answer to yell at that person across on the other line. They don't know where they are. They don't know who they are. They don't see their face. And I think, would you say that to a person if you're standing in front of them? Probably not. So that's that element of heart. And I think that can never be lost. And to tell a true story of somebody's journey can't be told through a computer doing it for you. Right?
Yeah. They're lacking the humanity in it or the emotions and
Well, it all comes back to that. I think even in your business, this is, I think we talked about it in the past. This is my home.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to put roots. And I think that's what I loved about your aspect was you didn't just go in and I'm going to sell you a house, right? So I can make my commission on it. I want to sell you your home. That you love, that you're going to be in.
You're going to build a family. You're going to build relationships, a community here,
Yeah, the place where family gathers, the place where memories are built. That's different. And I think that's passion. I think that's where it separates it when you hear, there's all these real estate agents. But then there's a real estate agent who has a soul, right? And I think it's that empathy and heart that... Even when we did your film, that it's there. It breathes inside of you, right? And you can see it how you transition to your family and your kids. It's that heart. And that's hard to find nowadays. And if you can find that transitions everything. Because that means you can feel it when a person gives you that. There's an energy.
The authenticity, the genuine, like the care and trust that they're providing for you, right?
Exactly. So, and that's why for me, I'm so passionate about it because... That's how story is told. Like you said from the beginning, that's how generations are passed through, is through stories. And it's through hardship. It's through those things that you find that heart. I think at the end of it, it's everybody wants to care for something. That's why I even think more than ever in businesses, people say, millennials just want to just change jobs. They don't. They're actually searching for a company that they believe in.
Passionate about a cause
a cause or the way they approach it, right? So it's not that they're flaky. They just want to find a place that
meaning,
a place they can call home. Something real, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Awesome. No, thank you for summarizing that, actually.
no. You can tell I get really intense when it comes to story.
Okay, so pivoting a little bit, for our audience out there that are trying to get into the field, maybe, follow in your footsteps, so to speak, what kind of advice would you give them? Like, how would you, following their heart? I guess that's one of the key themes I'm getting out of this.
Well, I think a lot of people say, "Oh, follow your passion."
Yeah,
And it's not about that. Yes, you have to be impassioned, but I think it's execution.
Execution,
right? As any job you go into, you see what 95% are willing to say, "Yeah, I want that." But are they going to do it?
Yeah.
And I think it's that thing of excuse. Oh, I don't have the right camera. I don't have the right, there's not enough lighting that I have to have, or it's just by myself. Well, it doesn't matter. You can do it.
You can start, yeah.
Just start, right? I think that's the biggest advice is your phone. It's a camera.
It's camera, computer, media, whatever, communication.
Any media you can use, you can film, you can produce, you can write, you can script. Just do it. And I think that's always the thing that I've always told any young person is execute. Put the idea to page and just do it.
Just start doing it, right? Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be...
Everything is a V1.
Yeah.
Right? Look at Microsoft Word or Microsoft in general, right?
Yeah.
We're on version what? And then version update.
Yeah.
You got to start with V1. I've been using this a lot lately is if you don't do V1, it doesn't, because then you can do V1B, V1C, V2.
You build and adapt and evolve from it, right? Like
everything is changeable. You can say, "Oh, I did it now. How can I do that better?" But I think that's the thing that impassions me is it's still to this day, it's the same thing. We can do a job and I'm like, how can we do that one better? Right? It's not, oh, we're there now.
We're good.
We're good. Right? There is no, it's a constant thing. And I think it's that evolution that keeps you moving forward and not stale is the fact that you want to look at things always from a new lens and always, how do we better that?
How to improve on it.
How do we improve on that? Okay, we did it now. How do we get to the next one? The next one.
Do better.
Better and better and better. And I think when people get to a stage where they're like, yeah, this is good. Right? And I think I read a book out there, Good to Great.
Good to Great, yeah.
Very small percentage right in between.
Yeah.
But you just got to take that extra work to get there. Right? That extra oomph. And I think that's the thing is to tell young people, yeah, okay, you did it. Wasn't great right there.
Yeah.
But do the next one.
But don't stop, yeah.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop. And it's frustrating. You will bang your head against the wall. You will, and it's okay, right? And I think for me, I've been lucky. I'm surrounded by an incredible team, and that's when you look at the almost 30 years we've been in business is because of the people, right? Yeah. And that's when I walk in the door and people say, "Oh, Keith, you did such a great job." It really wasn't me. Yeah. It was this team that did incredible work. And it's the people
behind
that really set it apart, right? I may be a catalyst, but it's them that really take it to that next level. And that's where I say I'm very lucky the business has been alive this long because of people.
The people in it, right? Yeah. So speaking of which, what kind of future outlooks or where do you want to take the next steps towards?
Even with AI and all those elements coming in, the thing that still breeds at our hearts is storytelling, is finding those great stories, those great people that you can inspire other people with, right? Whether it be in an event or whether it be in a film. That's our constant goal, is to rise to that and find, because the world is full of people and we are all interacted by people.
And nature.
So, what surrounds us and can we inspire through doing those films or doing those stories and finding those great characters. I think that's always a continual. Most recently, I kind of wrote down that's my why. Yeah. Is I've been lucky enough to meet some incredible people, like along my journey, like even meeting you and meeting your brother Alvin, like people that do some really cool shit, right? And you go, wow, how'd they get there? How'd they do that? Boy, that story, right? Like, how you started, right? You're like, yo, man, this guy was a psychologist before, but that's amazing. The journey, and people's journeys. And if we can inspire other people, and I think that goes to your marker of how to tell people getting into the business is watch the films out there.
Yeah.
Watch the things that make you cry. Watch the things that make you laugh.
Learn from
how does that impact you? And now how do you find to tell that story? And that's the grasp of it all. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Okay, as we try to wrap up, we always ask our guest, what's the one type of food that you would eat for the rest of your life if you could, apart from these amazing cream buns?
To be honest with you, my favorite is Chinese food. And I have to say, there's just something ethereal about it.
Yeah.
The diversity of foods.
Yeah. Different flavors, different mixes, different styles of cooking. It's so
unbelievable.
Diverse.
Like Asian cooking, like don't call it Chinese food. Asian cooking in general, the diversity of food and elements you get to try and the flavors just blow my mind.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah, but nothing like a warm soup dumpling that,
the Shanghainese soupy dumplings.
That's like soul food. But the one thing that always hits at home, my mom recently brought it to the office for me, and she made her mapo tofu.
Oh, nice.
And I went home and a bowl of rice. And when you eat it, you're like, it just transports you back to when you were a kid, and it's like, that's home.
That's the comfort.
So that's the comfort food.
And for those who don't know mapo tofu,
it's basically tofu with the sauce, with some
bean,
with some pork or generally pork and some preserved vegetable chopped into it and a little bit of spice.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I have to try that sometime.
We're in.
All right. Thank you for coming on today. That wraps up our episode for TimSold Talks. Where can our audience find you? Well, I think we'll have all your socials.
I think you'll have all our socials down there, and it's SenovvA.com/ca. But again, for us, and you'll find us at SenovvA on Instagram. But
Okay. No, thank you. Look forward to that.
Thanks for having me.
And if you enjoyed today's episode and looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate, you know who to follow. Give us a 5-star review. Listen to us on all our different social medias. And remember, guys, dream it, believe it, or achieve it. It's a great day to sell houses.
He's amazing at what he does. So do it.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tim Chang, and I proudly lead the TimSold team. We're voted as one of the top 3 brokerages in Markham, and we will sell your house fast and for top dollar with the least amount of hassle, or we guarantee to buy it. Call us today and start packing.